Hi, and welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Howard Drukarsh. I've been a successful realtor in Canada's largest market for over 30 years, and in the latter part of my career, I co-founded Canada's largest independent brokerage, Right at Home Realty, with a roster of over 5,600 agents and growing. In 2020, I retired to start this podcast, and it's been a remarkable opportunity to meet fascinating and highly successful guests in real estate and in related fields. And today's guest is exactly one of those people. It's Saraya Yen from Austin Birch. Saraya, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much, Howard. I'm so excited to do this. I've watched all your podcasts, and this is just an absolute gem, and I'm really excited to have this opportunity today.
Thank you. Great. And we talked a bit getting this set up, and I knew you'd be a great guest. Lots of enthusiasm, and you have a fantastic background. So I'm gonna read through these things so I don't miss anything. For starters, it's been 9 years that you've been successful in the pre-construction business, having been responsible for 9,000 pre-construction condominiums with a value of over $7 billion. You were vice president of sales. You were vice president of sales and development, or you are at Austin Birch, but previously at Kuzuian Real Estate. And also prior to that, you were vice president of new sales and development at PSR Brokerage. So you know this business as well as anyone. And I think it leads to, we could have talked about it later, but why don't we talk about the award that your company just won? It's the BILD Award. If those who don't know BILD is the Building Industry Land Development Organization. Basically, builders and people around builders belong, and they have this enormous event once a year where they give out awards for all different areas of pre-construction. And the award that Austin Birch won, Saraya and her team, was the best sales team for mid and high rise. Why don't you talk about that? Because I think that's fascinating.
Sure. Thank you. And we are so proud of this achievement. All of those, the accolades that you've just mentioned, I do have to attribute to such an incredible team. I've actually been blessed to have been able to work with almost the same team over all of those years, and almost all of those projects we've worked together on, launching, sales, admin, all the back end stuff, and of course working very closely with the development teams prior to and after launch. So it's truly just come full circle now that we've won this award together after so many years of working together. We are so appreciative to see the other nominees and all of these incredible development teams that are in the industry that were up, for BILD Awards as well. So to be able to win was truly something remarkable, and it was just so sweet to be able to win that with the team I've been working with over the last 9 years.
And for those those that work in the pre-construction industry, to win an award is really quite an accomplishment because the competition is so keen. I mean, people really, really work hard, on behalf of the developers to help them with their projects. But I remember being at that dinner, and the quality is spectacular. So, good for you and good for your team, and I'm sure it bodes well for next year. It's quite an accomplishment. I want to get into some questions about you, but the question that came to mind was about the actual name of the company, Austin Birch. Mm-hmm. How did that come about? What's that? What's the derivation of that?
We get a lot of questions, and actually you would never be able to guess unless you really knew us closely. So the presidents of our company, Eric Kuzuian and Jamie Sarner. Funny enough, we all worked together in trying to come up with a name, but they were working on many different options with an incredible team in New York. But what it came down to really as simply as the names of their streets. So Eric lives on Birch and Jamie lives on Austin Terrace. And it just went together and formed such a, I don't know, we really like the name. It sounds nice. It works, and it's received a lot of great feedback. So that's the the source of the name.
Well, it is, it's interesting. It is a great name. That's why I asked the question, because there was something about it. And now that we've answered the question on this podcast, you may not have to answer it as many times.
That's the secret.
All right.
The secret's out.
Okay. So let me ask this. This is a question I like to ask, because people in business, in the real estate and development business, have to be somewhat entrepreneurial, to say the least. So were there entrepreneurs in your family?
There were. It's an interesting question. I guess so. My background is I'm half Chinese and my mother is Icelandic. So my father's Chinese, and I do have a bit of a similar story to a lot of Torontonians that have come from. I grew up in Toronto. I was born in Toronto, but my family on my Chinese side came over, immigrated to Canada, and started. Of course, had a wonderful life back in China, but they started from scratch. And I'm sure, a lot of people can resonate with this because we're seeing so much immigration coming to Toronto and Canada. And a lot of my family had to start completely from scratch. And I'd say, I guess that's probably where our entrepreneurial spirits come from. It's a hard work to get started in a new country. And so I definitely, look at my aunts and my family with so much admiration to have come and, start their businesses and build their life and build their portfolios to, living very successfully now. So I think that resonates with a lot of people who have had to come over and, start fresh and come to Canada and build a life here. And so I would definitely say that that's been a lot of my inspiration, is from looking up to my aunts and my uncles who've had to come over and start from an even harder place than I've had to start from.
I think when people, look at immigrants, they may not recognize it takes such courage to leave and to come to a new country, to start a new life. And certainly in Toronto, I think it is the most multicultural city, and definitely in Canada, maybe in North America, maybe even the world. It's unique in that way. And I think, families like yours have contributed in immense ways. I mean, a lot of the developers we've talked to come from the same sort of backgrounds. And they've made great careers. So that's a really good answer to the question.
Well, thanks. And we see people every day, because we're selling so many units, we get to learn the stories, and it's truly remarkable what everyone's story, comes from and where everyone comes from. And it's really great to be able to see how Toronto's growing this way.
And talk about stories. What did you do before real estate? Because I'm sure there was some career ahead of that, or was there?
Believe it or not, I've actually been in real estate, for so many years, almost as long as my entire working career. So that, believe it or not, I know I said I've worked in the pre-construction industry for 9 years, but I actually loved real estate my whole life and was always inspired by going to open houses and watching some of my family members buy and sell and kind of continually advance with their portfolios and bigger and nicer homes. And I loved that. So I actually, right out of high school, just decided, this is for me. And I love resale. I love homes. And so I started there. I actually started with resale, and I worked as a resale agent in Vancouver for many years. And then I started working with a developer in Vancouver. It's not just outside of Vancouver. And it was a really amazing experience. I actually didn't launch the project, but I worked on the remaining inventory and realized how much I loved the pre-construction process. So when I moved to Toronto, I didn't completely intend on landing where I have. And I started getting back into resale and realized, this was a great opportunity to jump back into pre-construction. And then, the story unfolds from there. But I've always been in real estate.
Wow, it's great. That on its own is unusual, because as you know, a lot of times it's a second career or a third career, but you knew about it that early in your life. So, that's a real blessing, I'm sure. And look at how happy you are doing it even now. So it was a good tie-in. What was the first project that you worked on?
The first project, well, I would say probably a project, it was called 60 Colborne by Freed Developments. It was when I had moved back, I did take a little bit of a break, of course, in between all of this real estate. I'd take, some breaks here and there to travel the world and kind of learn different things. And I had, a few side jobs. But when I came back to Toronto and I knew that this was exactly what I was going to do about, close to 9 years ago now, it was 60 Colborne. And 60 Colborne is a project that's down in the St. Lawrence Market neighborhood, sort of just bordering the financial district of downtown core. And it was just, it's such a wonderful project in my heart because it was the first. And it's still, to see it, up now with people living in it and, perfect sort of piece to finish off that area. It's just, I'm so glad that was my first project.
And Colborne's a nice little street in the midst of all the busyness. It's not one of the busier streets. And it's, I know the street and I kind of know roughly where that is. And it'd be a nice project to work on because it's just a good area of the city, right? It's really kind of cool.
We had this incredible sales center on site that was a temporary structure, but it was completely made out of glass. And it was almost like you wouldn't even want to call it a trailer. It was just this piece of, a base with all, floor to ceiling glass. And so, during it looked beautiful, but of course, during the summer and winter months, the temperatures were a little extreme. But otherwise, we had perfect views, north towards that St. James Church, and we'd listen to the church bells every 15 minutes. And then, of course, all the heritage buildings that surround the site. So it was really a beautiful place to sit and get started, in pre-construction real estate.
Really nice. Mm-hmm. And pre-construction has changed. I mean, it's changed in the last couple of years, but from when you started, let's call it the marketing side of pre-construction. How would you describe what it was like 9 years ago and what it's like in 2021? What are the big changes?
It's significantly changed. Okay. I could say even in the last year, it's changed significantly. But I would say, from the beginning, from back, if you had bought real estate pre-construction 10 years ago, the process was a lot slower. We had to meet with everyone in person. A sales center was very crucial to the entire process because the buyers weren't as educated as they are today. So, our process of selling a unit usually would take, anywhere from a few hours to a couple of days long. And then, of course, that 10-day cooling off period, we were in touch with the purchasers directly, usually, every day, just answering questions and helping educate. And of course, everything was done on paper. So we'd have to sign the contracts 2 to 3 times and still, of course, negotiate back and forth with the lawyers directly and with the agents, of course. And now, over the years, we've really embraced technology. And of course, we still are there to be able to provide the best service as possible, to be able to answer questions. And we're still there if someone does want to meet with us daily or spend an hour sitting, writing their deal. But it's a much quicker process, much more efficient process with the technology that we're able to use, with deal signing, with unit floor plan allocations and searching through the options available, and then of course ultimately signing and then when it comes down to the technical standpoint of the deal.
Which kind of leads me to the question about the pandemic and your business. I mean, it really threw a curveball to every industry. But I think based on what you said, how things used to be done, and then all of a sudden you can't meet with people. I mean, and people can't meet with you. So how did that change the way you and your colleagues work?
So the pandemic really changed, and we've evolved completely from that point on. So we were already ahead of the game with technology. Some of our projects before the pandemic, I think if anything, we were one of the first to launch a project using a completely digital signing process, which was Kingly. So that was a few years ago in the King West neighborhood. But from there, we started to embrace that. And luckily, because we were used to it, and we'd started to, I guess the industry started to embrace this, signing deals virtually and meeting with purchasers and their agents over Zoom calls like this one. It did take a little bit of time for agents and purchasers getting used to this. But I think, since we've started to be able to do this, purchasers are now so much more educated on the entire pre-construction process that they trust this technology, and they trust that they don't necessarily need to come in and actually see the sales center or meet with an agent like myself face to face to be able to sign. So it's really moved everything completely digitally. We also even integrate our brokerage presentations prior to a launch, and a lot of the development meetings where we're sitting with the development teams, the architects, the design teams, and the marketing teams, and do everything over Zoom calls. So it's really, really important. And I think we've realized how much more efficient we can be by jumping onto a Zoom call, and then we can, jump into the next one instead of having to travel across the city and waste, an hour's commute time and finding parking and everything. So I think everyone's just become a little bit more efficient. And the pandemic, I'd actually almost say that we have to attribute our recent win of the BILD Award to the pandemic, as much as I don't want to look at a bright side of the pandemic, but we won because of how we were able to adapt and how we were able to evolve. We were actually just about to launch our project. So we'd done all of the legwork to build up our launch process and we were literally about to launch in a couple of weeks. And then the pandemic hit, and we had to go back to the drawing board and completely rejig everything about the launch. We had already met with all of the agents, their purchasers, everybody was excited. And then the pandemic hit, and the confidence just completely was very low, and everybody was very confused. And we had to completely change the plan. And we were actually the first launch, the first digital launch to come out after the pandemic. So that was I hate to say it, but we were forced to evolve.
I think a lot of industries have had the same situation where, obviously pandemic was horrible, and there's nothing you can say that changes that. But for business, it forced businesses to either adapt or go out of business. I mean, that was really what happened here. The other thing, as you were talking, I was thinking, not only your Toronto purchasers, but you probably were able to attract purchasers from outside of Toronto, because, like you said, instead of having to drive, people from, it could be as close as Markham, or it could be as far as Quebec. I mean, who may want to be in purchasing in Toronto. Did you find that happened as well?
That's exactly right. We did. We completely were able to now open the doors to the world, really. So before, we'd have to schedule certain calls, and we wouldn't be able to see each other virtually. So we'd have to send a lot of the material over to the agents and hope that they're, showing the right content and describing the project properly. But now we can jump on and do the exact same thing. We also have, it's easier for identity verification and for actually the process of the actual deal. We can jump on with the agents if there's translating required. We can even show them the sales center and the site itself and take them through with the camera. So it's really incredible how much the doors have opened to the world now that we're able to do this via technology instead of just a simple phone call.
It is. I mean, even in the resale world of real estate, technology's had a huge effect. So it's this industry took a while to catch up, but I think it's moving very quickly now in all aspects of it. In your own world, what are the tech tools that you find most helpful for you in what you do for Austin Birch?
So we are very, forward in making sure that we're always checking out what's available, in the industry, to make sure that we're working with the best of the best technology and the most efficient technology, and even some of the best of the best. That we work with portions of it, and we'll work with another team, for example. So I will say that we are working with some amazing teams for different types of the whole process. So for example, we're working with Blackline, which is ad hoc, and they have done an incredible job in, working with a lot of the new developers and a lot of the developers around the city and sales teams like ours to really fine tune the process of the whole sales, the front end, the launch phase. So for example, we'll use the Blackline tool to show 3D models or the floor plans and send agents their allocation packages. So that's really helped us eliminate having to do a lot of, spreadsheets and back-end work and making sure we have it all, documented in our minds. So that's really helped us with the front end of everything. On the back end, we have software systems that work for our CRM purposes and for the actual signing process. So that's a company that we use is called Spark. And they're out in Vancouver, and they're incredible. So they really just help. Our entire back end is all documented. We can pull reports. We can see exactly what we're signing. We can send the deals out. And that, of course, lends, appreciation to DocuSign. I think we can all appreciate DocuSign resale and pre-construction. Being able to sign a deal digitally instead of having to, send the paperwork or fax something or, email the deal over. And we also, that's more from the launch process and the deals. Now that I'm thinking about it, from a lot of the technology that we're starting to implement into the actual projects, the buildings themselves, now you're starting to see the buildings even become smart. So we're offering, these great options for purchasers to have, or mostly from the development team, is to have something called One Valet, for example. One Valet is a system that essentially makes a building smart. So One Valet, it works as an app on your phone, and the purchasers, when they move into their building, they, can have facial recognition. The One Valet system also will call the elevator when they're coming down the ramp from the underground garage. So it's really interesting, and that's really helped us, keep on the forefront with even our projects as well. So not only the sales process, but also the buildings that we're selling to make sure that they're advanced in tech.
Wow. So for people who haven't looked at new construction for a few years, there's a lot of changes going on, and the efficiencies sound terrific. I mean, that's, this is the world has changed to where efficiency is everything. And it's good to see that these things have not been neglected by pre-construction. It's exciting to hear these things. So I think the viewers will also learn a lot by listening to what you've done and what the developers are doing. One of the things I like to ask, because in my career and everybody's career, people have had influences to bring you to your best. What's the greatest advice that anyone ever gave you for your career or personally?
Well, from my career and for personally, I would say, I think probably the best advice someone has given me was to make, my money work for me and to buy real estate. And I say this, of course, this is personally, but it's lent into my career as well, because it's helped me help others to understand why buying real estate is so important. It's helped me to see and believe that what we are selling is truly a valuable asset, so that I'm not, in order to sell something, I don't really believe that we sell. I believe we help educate and we help guide the process. So in order to be able to do that, you have to do it yourself. You have to understand and have experience. And so for me, I bought real estate really young. I started, back when I was, I think 19 was my first purchase. And that's actually part of the reason I got into real estate as well. I just wanted to make sure that I had my license to be able to purchase a house. And so when I finally did it, I enjoyed the process. I realized and I learned about leverage, and I learned how I could eventually start to build my portfolio. And then, you realize and you start to understand the whole process. And so that way, when I'm on the sales floor, when I'm speaking with my teams, we're able to understand what others are going through and help them and guide them through the process. So that's really, I think that was probably the stem to, how I've evolved. And I've always kind of, think back to those words, is to make your investments work for you, and to always, consider starting at least with real estate.
No, it sounds great. The industry is just the beginning, or maybe past beginning, to come back in 2021. I hate to use the word prediction, but everybody predicts. So what's your prediction for we're now in October, the rest of this year, 2021, and what do you think is going to happen in 2022?
Well, I speak to all of the agents all the time, and I know that 2021 is, of course, there's going to be a couple more launches, and they're going to do very well because they're in great locations. But I think the agents are tired, and I don't mean that I mean that in a light sense. It's been a crazy year. I think it's one of the most. We've seen the highest record of released inventory ever in Toronto in terms of pre-construction this year, and I've spoken with a lot of the agents, and personally, they're being pulled in every direction to perform and to make sure that they're getting their sales done, and make sure that they're getting their clients in the right buildings. And so I'm pretty sure near the end of November to December, we'll start to see people starting to take some holidays, some much deserved holidays, because they've all worked incredibly hard this year. For the next year, I know it's going to be an unbelievable year. We've seen unprecedented numbers absorbed this year, and I think we'll still continue to see the same next year, mainly because a lot of the developments that were about to launch this year or last year were pushed. So a lot of the inventory is now being pushed, because of the pandemic, and we're starting to see everyone, a little bit more ready and able to come out with their fantastic projects. So very excited to see the lineup for the next year. I know a lot of them that are coming, and I know they're ready to go, and very excited, and already getting good traction. So as long as everything remains, everyone remains healthy, and everything remains, in good state and equilibrium state as we are now, I think that we'll see some tremendous success with Toronto next year.
That seems to be I also talk to real estate people, and it seems to be the overall opinion is that 2022 will be a banner year. And yes. I agree with you. Health, everybody's healthy. Rates don't go cuckoo, and people are ready to get back into real estate. It should be a great year for everybody. On a personal level, although it is a business question, what's been your biggest success in marketing pre-construction? It doesn't have to be the biggest project, but what you think is your biggest success?
I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction here. Our biggest success, I personally think, because we're very people oriented, I think our biggest success is the incredible relationships that we've been able to build over the years. Mm-hmm. The fact that we're still working with the same teams, and that we have repeat business with the same developers and the same clients. And from that end, of course, and then from the other end is with the broker relations across the city. There's 40,000 agents that we work with very closely, different ones on different projects, of course, but the fact that they're still loyal to us, they still want to help us succeed. We want them to succeed. So I would say our biggest success is definitely these incredibly loyal and fantastic relationships that we've built over the years.
And I think in real estate, nothing beats loyalty. So I'd agree with you that's better than any project, is having loyalty. Mm-hmm. On the other end of it is, what's been your biggest challenge since you started in the business, and what did you learn from that?
Well, I don't want to jump back to the pandemic again, but I think our biggest challenge is typically, when the confidence is low, and that was a huge challenge in I guess in the last few years. And I'm sure I share this sentiment with others, but when the confidence is down in Toronto, and we're unsure of what the future holds, it was very difficult, and I think a lot of other teams probably felt similarly. We're always working to, with pre-construction, we're looking towards the future, of course. So we're very bullish, and we're very firm believers that the city will always continue to flourish, and that will continue to grow. So, it's difficult when the confidence is down in the city. But I think that was a short blip, and I believe now, especially seeing this great success this year, that I hope that the confidence is right back up there.
I think you're right. I think it is in this industry for sure. I think people realize that, real estate's such an important thing for most people, and Toronto is such a hub for the country, economic hub. Here's a chance to get into some promotion for the company. What are the projects that you're working on now coming up?
So we've had an amazing last couple of months. We're working with RioCan Living, our amazing team, and we're working on their project in Etobicoke called Verge. So Verge was introduced to the market, I would say late spring, and it's a 2-phased project. We launched phase 1 at the end of the summer with amazing success. And now we've just launched, and I don't want to say fully sold out because we're still in the 10 days for a lot of the deals, but we've done an incredible job with phase 2. So those are 2 incredible projects. We're still managing our other projects around the city. So we still have with Minto Communities, we have the Saint and 123 Portland that we've launched a little while ago, but there's a little bit of remaining inventory there. And then of course our clients out in Oakville district developments with Trailside phase 1 and phase 2. And then of course, all of the future projects that are set to come, we work very, very closely with the developers for, sometimes up to a year to even sometimes 2 years prior to a project's coming to the market. So, we're working very closely with other developers as well that I haven't named, that you'll see our projects come to life in the next year.
And I know you do a great job on social media because I've been following, the Verge promotion, success, and, using social media, it's critical. I mean, that's how people really find out about who you are and what you do. So you personally are doing a great job. I wanted to let you know that's what I think.
Thank you.
We only have 2 more questions, so let me go to the second last question.
Sure.
Okay, because I know we always try to keep it to a half hour. I know how busy you are, and I appreciate the time. What do you think are the skills and talents that are necessary to be a really good pre-construction marketing company?
That's a great question.
Well, it took me a half an hour to get there. So, okay.
I don't want to define that by anything because we are sometimes so surprised. Everybody in our industry is a little bit of a rock star and has their own individuality and their own personality. And sometimes, we at our team, we like to try to pull the best out of everyone. So we'll kind of, you learn very, we learn when you're in the trenches with someone else, when you're launching and when there's high pressure, how someone else's personality can flourish over others. So we try to put each one another to our best of abilities in the right situations. I would say ultimately, though, it stems down to, and this is going to sound cliche, but a passion for the project. So, you have to believe when you're launching a project and you're speaking to so many people and you're presenting at different brokerages and you're talking to all kinds of buyers and all kinds of people that, you really truly believe in the project and that you believe that this is going to be, positive for the city and positive for the neighborhood that it's coming into. And that, of course, that passion is probably, it's not something that you could, you can learn. You have to just really understand the project, educate yourself. And if you're passionate about what we do, then I think you're going to do very well in our industry.
And you've combined the second last and last question and given me the answer to both. So we're all set. It's been a delight, Saraya, and thank you for taking time. It's always a pleasure for us to interview people like yourself who truly love what they do because it comes across. And the success that you've had in your career and currently with Austin Birch, I think you're a real good example of what you can do in this business. So congratulations on that, on your win at BILD, and perhaps we'll get you back again in the future. All right?
Absolutely. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you today, Howard.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. We'd like to thank Saraya Yen of Austin Birch and you for joining us today. And if you liked our podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast network or on our YouTube channel. If you want to reach us, you can do it one of two ways. You can reach us by email at info@rewithhd.com or on our website, rewithhd.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.